It is one of the most powerful organizations in the world. It spans 2 continents and comprises a total of 21 sovereign states, and its international influence continues to grow. We are talking about the Arab League. It is currently on everyone's lips as it recently readmitted Syria under the dictator Assad to its own ranks, much to the annoyance of the West. Overall, the organization is distancing itself further and further from the West and is increasingly pursuing its own course in international geopolitics. And with powerful leaders such as Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt and Morocco, it increasingly knows how to play its cards right. It is playing both sides against each other in the Ukraine war and thus profits from trade with both camps. So what is the Arab League all about? How powerful is it really, and could it become a kind of EU of Arab countries? We look at all these questions in today's video. The Arab League was founded in the year 1945, even during the Second World War. The war had weakened the European colonial powers, and the Arab states now saw their chance for independence. A brief reminder, until the First World War, almost all of these states had belonged to the Ottoman Empire for several centuries. During the First World War, they sided with the Allies, as they hoped to gain independence in return for their support. In reality, however, things turned out quite differently. Although the Ottoman Empire fell, the Allies, particularly France and Great Britain, divided the region up among themselves. France, for example, received Syria and Lebanon, and Great Britain Iraq and Jordan. In the process, rather arbitrary borders were drawn between the states, some of which still cause unrest today. After the Second World War, however, all states in the Middle East, with the exception of Palestine, managed to break away from the colonial powers and finally achieve their independence. And so the idea of a joint coordinating organization emerged early on. People had learned from the First World War and therefore wanted to join forces in order to preserve independence in the long term this time. They also wanted to coordinate together and create an overarching Arab identity. Thus, on March 22 of the year 1945, the states signed the so-called League of Arab States Pact. At its inception, the Arab League consisted of 7 countries. The Kingdom of Egypt, the Kingdom of Iraq, the Lebanese Republic, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the Syrian Arab Republic, the Emirate of Transjordan, and the Kingdom of Yemen. However, the creation of a common identity and the definition of common goals proved to be much more difficult in reality than initially assumed. Each state had its own idea of Arab unity, which repeatedly led to conflicts. However, they were eventually able to agree on a common goal: stopping Zionism, i.e. the establishment of a Jewish nation-state in Palestine. This led to sanctions and a boycott of Israel, and ultimately to several open wars. Examples of this are the Palestine War, the Suez Crisis, and the Six-Day War. However, the Arab states were vastly inferior to Israel in all conflicts, as a result of which the unity of the Arab League increasingly dwindled. Many rulers were overthrown as a result. A new common enemy, which conjured up the unity of the mostly Sunni Arab states, emerged at the end of the 1970s when the Ayatollah came to power in Iran. In turn, they began to move closer to Israel again. Many Arab League states have now resumed normal relations. And in the meantime, the organization has also grown steadily. Especially after the independence of the states of North Africa, all of these also joined the Arab League, so that it now consists of 21 states plus the internationally not fully recognized state of Palestine. And through the alliance of leading members such as Saudi Arabia and the Emirates with the West, the Arab League has also become increasingly powerful. But how powerful is the Arab League today? It is clear that the organization is increasingly charting its own course in international politics. This recently became clear with the readmission of Syria and the declaration of neutrality in the Ukraine war. Nevertheless, cohesion within the League is rather low, and the course is dictated by a few states, above all Saudi Arabia. We must bear in mind that, unlike the EU, we are not dealing with democratic states for the most part. The states are characterized by dictatorships and monarchies, which is why a democratic organization in which all members have an equal say seems rather difficult in practice. We can also see this in the fact that the organization's decisions are not binding for all members. The Arab Parliament, in which representatives of the individual states sit, also only has an advisory function. And the economic disparities between the individual states are enormous. In Qatar, for example, GDP per capita is $90,000, whereas in Somalia it is only $600. As a result, economic cooperation between the states is currently rather limited. So if the organization wants to become a joint association along the lines of the EU one day, there are still many obstacles ahead of the states. At present, however, the interests of the states and their respective rulers seem too divergent to agree on fixed institutional structures in the long term.